Welcome back to Just Saying. Today we're diving into a conversation that's as real as it gets. What it means to raise a child whose needs don't fit neatly into a handbook. My guest, Michelle Choairy, is a mom, an advocate, and the founder of Wisdom for Complex Kids. She's also the host of Complex Kids, Simple Solutions, and co-host of the Mom Panel. Michelle knows firsthand the confusion, exhaustion, and heartache that comes with raising a child who doesn't fit the typical mold. And she also knows the strength, clarity, and love that can rise from it. She's here to share her story, her wisdom, and to remind every parent listening, you are not alone. Hey friends, I'm joined here with Michelle Choairy, founder of Wisdom for Complex Kids. Sorry about that. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Hi, Jess. Thank you for having me.
I thank you so much. I was like sweating on the name. Your name is very difficult to pronounce, but you gave it to me phonetically, so I think I didn't murder it. But then I murdered the name of your business, so I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. The hardest thing is my name, but you
And I
did
got
it
that.
awesome. You
I
did it
got
awesome. So good
that.
job.
I don't know what I'm going to do because I really used to say all the time, people messing up my last name all the time. It's Danel. It's not Daniel. But then
Daniel.
I
Yeah.
started doing podcasting. I'm like, oh my God, I'm the worst at names. I'm like, oh my God, this is just God telling me like,
Oh,
don't catch.
it's hard. Some names are hard,
I know.
and mine is very hard, and I know that.
Well,
But
we're going to
it's,
say it a whole bunch of times so people get it in the noggin.
there you go.
Uh,
I think the way that I explained to you is like, show me your ID. So it's like show ID.
yeah. That's how I wrote it down. Your name. O-I-D.
Exactly. That's it.
Well, that's awesome. You're so kind to like let me like, in case I made a mistake. You're like really cool with it. But let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back. I want
Sounds
to
good.
talk about your journey with your son, and how his diagnosis came about, and what it looked like, what life looked like before that and after. Like, let's rewind and tell me a little bit about your story.
Do you have a whole day? Because that's how long it'll take. I'm
Let's
just
fill it
kidding.
up because we got about an hour here. So
Kidding. So yeah, my journey started when it started later in life actually, because I didn't get married until I was 36. And then I decided to have a child at 38. So by then it's, what they call geriatric
I was
pregnancy.
there. I had mine at 36. She's 15.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
After 35, we're all geriatric apparently, in the world of having children. So it started later in life, which, it's fine. I enjoyed my 20s and my 30s. And so, now I probably will not enjoy my retirement because they're going to be around. But, it's okay. But anyway, I was pregnant. I knew it was a boy. And at 29 weeks, I went in for an ultrasound, and the doctor comes running in and he goes, "You got to go to the hospital right now. You have no amniotic fluid." So we went across the way, and I stayed on bed rest for 3 weeks
Mm.
until we decided that it was time for him to come out. And he was 32 weeks. So he was 3 pounds,
Oh,
and he was a tiny little thing, and stayed in the NICU for a month. And that was really, really hard. You have a child and then you go home and you leave your child behind. It's kind of like, what's going on here?
it's a
But
total gut punch. I mean, it's a total gut punch. I also, my daughter was in the NICU, and my son, actually both my kids. I don't know what it's like to have a kid that come home, normally. Like,
that's how it was with my daughter. I had my
yeah.
daughter and they kept her in the room, and I was like, okay, and we didn't know what to do. We're like, you're not taking her? You're not taking, you know what I mean? It was so strange. It was so
Yeah.
strange to have that happen.
And then when you have to
But
leave, just so people know, like I was lucky, both my kids, the hospital said, yeah, you got high blood pressure. We're going to keep you here. And they allowed me to stay the whole week. And both of my kids left after a week. And my son had needed a heart monitor, and he had to wear a heart monitor for like 6 to 8 months of his first life. So he was
Wow.
with wires the whole time. His baby,
Yeah.
all of his pictures is like wires and stuff. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and he had episodes where he stopped breathing, like I don't know, 9, I think, altogether. So it saved his life.
Mhm.
And my daughter, she had open heart surgery at 5 months, but it
My
was
gosh.
but that's a whole nother story. But I don't want to get into my story. But I
Yes.
wanted I wanted people to know. I wanted people to know that though
Yes.
when you if I had to leave my child in the NIC unit, if I had to leave her there or him there and go home and then like sleep at home and then get up and go back, you don't understand how hard that is, because
Correct.
it is like you feel useless, helpless, like you failed them, and you're not getting any sleep barely at home anyways. You're not sleeping, you're not it's like it's torturous, and I
It's
don't know.
brutal.
Yeah, I
It
don't know
is.
how you
It's
did it,
awful.
like, honestly. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I know I went on
Well,
a tangent, but I wanted to reel it back in because I wanted
no,
people to know how what a struggle it is as a mommy to leave
for
your
sure.
baby that's so frail in the hands of people that are shifting, at 7 to 7, they're shifting
Mhm.
their shifts. They have a new nurse
Yes.
and something different, and they don't know you as well, or if they get to know you, but at first they don't. And
Yes.
you want to take a bajillion pictures, and they're like, oh, can't have flashes, and just all the
Mhm.
things that you can't do when you have a baby that's trying to survive.
Well, just this is like and then the the postpartum depression that comes along with that and all of that. But this is a whole other episode. We'll do that later, I think. I
Right,
think
yeah.
that this would be good to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he was in the NICU and we brought him home. And as he was growing, he was, developmentally delayed and all of these things. And then you go in and people think that you're a crazy person because you think that, they think that you're making, can we say shit on
Yes.
your podcast?
They're
Okay.
freaking hyperbolic. They're like, "Oh, you're just being so crazy." Like, the same thing. I had to again bring my mother in with me to the doctor to force him to give my daughter an MRI, and sure as shit, she came back with cerebral palsy. So
Yeah.
I was like, "She's not sitting up. She's not eating food. She's not this. She's not that." And he's like, "Oh, every time I'd go in there, oh, well, let's just give it a couple. She'll do it. Just give her some time." And da 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 da. And they're not listening.
It's They have no idea. They have no idea. And I always talk about the mama gut. Like we have this mama gut and we need to follow it. So, and even if people are calling you crazy, just follow it through because most of the time, there's two answers. You're either like, when you go look for help, right? You're going to either see that you were wrong or see that you were right.
Right.
So either way, it's going to be, you're going to feel better about the situation. So anyway, we saw all of those things. We started with early intervention. He got, his first diagnosis was childhood apraxia speech. And then we literally went across the country to see a speech therapist out there. We did everything that we could, right? And so he gets into school and he's not learning and he's really behind. And of course, we end up in an IEP. And if you don't know, it's the individualized educational plan for all of the kids that have special needs. And so, that's when you start advocating for your child. And we went through so much and we finally landed on a developmental pediatrician who kind of helped us through things. But for some reason, like the insurance company I had wouldn't do genetic testing. We had to go through all of these different things. So we did an MRI, we did a CT scan, we did a 48-hour EEG. We went through the
We
hoops.
did that. We did the 48-hour with the mapping on the brain where they put the thing on.
Yes.
We did the same thing because we thought my daughter was having seizures. When we would go in the car, she would do this, and she would like, up,
Oh,
and we didn't know what it
uh-huh,
was. And I videotaped and I showed the neurologist and I'm like, what is that? And he goes, I don't
mhm,
know. Is she having a seizure? I think. And so he did the mapping too, and it showed nothing. Like, come to find out, my daughter's got autism. So, and I think she still does it to this day. Those are things that she does when she's either really super happy or excited or in high stress.
mhm,
So,
yeah.
um, but at the time, I thought, I don't know, is she having a seizure? I didn't know, so we did the same thing, and it's a little scary looking, and when they're younger, they don't mind it, but if you had to do it when they're a little bit older, that would be
Oh, then yeah,
the
then it's hard because
that kids
then
don't like it. But anyways,
there's a whole other thing that comes into that too.
I know our poor babies have had so much stress, but keep going. I love
And
your story. I'm
no,
resonating. I'm sorry that I interject, but like
I love it.
I feel so akin to you. Like I feel like you're talking my story right now. So keep going.
No, this is great because this is what it's all about. It's for people to know that this is real and it's not just happening to you. If you're listening to this and you have a special needs child, this is not just you. All of these feelings are, you feel these things, and everybody who has a special needs kid. And how I like to I call them complex kids because I just call them complex because you know, they just have a little more complexity in their lives. Um, and so just it's good. It's good
I'm gonna
that,
use that from
the
now on.
listeners.
I'm gonna say complex kid. I have a complex
Yeah,
kid. I love it. I'm gonna steal
yeah.
that from you.
Go for it. Go for it. I'm making it a movement. So
Yes,
you'll
I
just
love it.
join the movement.
I love it. I'm sorry. Yeah,
So
that
anyway, we, fast forward and we did all that when he was about 8 years old. Everything had been negative. Everything was negative. And, they try to push you to different diagnoses and things like that. And I'm like, this doesn't fit. And so we just kept looking for it. So we finally got to a genetic testing. And when they call me, I'm like, oh, it was negative, right? Because everything else had been negative.
right.
And she goes, actually, it's not. He has a genetic disorder. And there are, from what we can see, there's only about 40 kids in the world with this. Yes, that was when he was 8.
He's super
So,
complex. My lord.
yes, very complex and very unique. So, at 8, we found this out, and the DNA is like all those strains. If you think about it, like the picture, right, of the DNA, they all have little letters that are, in place, and he has one letter that was inverted. And that has caused him to have what it's called TBR1. And so we found that out, and there's nothing out there. We received one paper that had been done about it, and they're like, we really don't know anything about this. And they said it looks like there's a Facebook group that you can join, and then there's a website, and the website was not helpful at all. So I log into the Facebook group, and of course, there's only, about 40 kids from when I
Like you said,
hear.
there's only about 40 kids. Like, right?
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, well, here we go. The journey started. Actually, you know what? The journey had started a long time before that. But, when you receive a diagnosis, I will be honest with you. Do you know what changed? Like the one thing that that was good about the diagnosis is that I had been holding myself guilty for everything that had happened to him up until then. And I was like, did I eat too much Taco Bell and drink too much Dr. Pepper while I was pregnant? Maybe that's what it did. This is probably why he's had all these delays. It's the Dr. Pepper with that caffeine, and you blame yourself as a
Okay,
mom.
so
Like you
yes,
just,
yes. I
right?
mean, yes. Okay, let me just say, my daughter's birth was so traumatic that the doctor, after she ended up being a C-section after we pushed for 3 hours, and it was horrible. But the doctor that saw her in the NICU unit thought that they dropped her on her head because she had a huge hematoma. She had giant welts behind her ears,
No
bruises, and
way.
fingernail marks on her head from the nurse doing this. Fingernail bloody marks all over her head. Bible. It was so bad that I thought
Oh,
that my daughter has cerebral palsy because of the delivery, and this damn doctor would refuse for hours to take her out because I finally said, please, I can't do it. No one, he goes, another 20 minutes. I'm like, get this effing kid out of my goddamn thick, my lady
Yes.
parts. He took off the gloves, threw them at my lady parts, and said, fine, prep her for surgery. And so then I finally got into this. And anyway, so I thought that I didn't push hard enough for her to be delivered by C-section quicker, and that she lost oxygen. And that is why she has all these delays. And we did a genetic testing back in 2010 when she was little, when she was born. And they said, no abnormalities, nothing. And so
Mhm.
a doctor suggested to me, and I'm just saying this because I think people out there might want to, if they've never tested or if they tested when they were younger, retest them because the testing has now been
Yes.
improved. And my daughter did come back with, and it's funny how you were saying the diagnosis and all the letters and all, when you have a child diagnosed with something that's a chromosomal abnormality, all the numbers. So
Yes.
has 16p.11.2 and it's a duplication of chromosomes, and so which could mimic cerebral palsy type um symptoms, or
Yes.
and also the speech delay that she has, and also she has what I self-diagnosed with AFRID. It's and in fact, there's just recently on the Housewives of Orange County, one of the moms now her son has, and she's talking about AFRID, and I'm like, that's my daughter. She won't eat anything that's not creamy. She
Mhm.
won't eat anything that has texture to it. She has texture aversion to food, so she
Mhm.
doesn't eat food. But anyway, so if you've not tested recently for chromosomes and your
Do
child,
it.
do it
Do
now,
it.
do it,
Yes.
because
Well,
it'll change you. And then, like you said, I
yes.
thought, oh, okay, all of this is because something I couldn't have expected. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So this is
Mhm.
not my fault. This isn't the fact that
Yes.
I didn't have her delivered right on time earlier, or whatever the case may be. This is something that I could not have helped. And so I do agree with you. Like it takes a little bit of like makes you have a deep breath,
Yes.
and then you just say, okay, now we're going to tackle it. Now we're going to do it. What do we do? And how do we help them?
Well, and usually you don't do anything differently than what you did before because you are already doing all the services and
Right.
you're tackling all the symptoms, right? And then you're trying to help them in that way. For us, really, did it change anything? I think that the only thing that changed is that once you have a genetic diagnosis that affects your developmental, chronologically and you're developmentally delayed and because of a genetic disorder, you can actually go through our state funded program here that's called the Regional Center, and you can get a waiver so he now has Medicaid, like the insurance through the state, the secondary insurance, and then you get other things and respite care and things like that. Those are things that was the only thing that really changed once we got this diagnosis.
And the
But
other thing too,
you
and you can get early intervention. They will help you. The
correct.
regional centers will help you with preschool. Will put
Yes.
your child in preschool in an environment that is conducive to their
Mhm.
developmental stages, and with other people that are like them, and they'll want better care, and it
Mhm.
really will help them in school. They did this for my daughter. She also is part of Kern Regional, and she got into kindergarten at the Richardson Center here in Bakersfield, which is part of Kern Regional, and
Yeah. Well, yeah. So a couple of things there, right? So if the parents are listening and they think that there might be something with their kid who is under 3, then yes, you need to reach out to your state funded programs. In California, it's called the Regional Center. At other places, they have different names for it in other states. But if you reach out to them and you say, I want my child to get tested because of this, this, and this, and this, they will do the testing. They will either accept you or deny you. If they accept you, they're with you until your child's 3 years old. After 3, you go into the school district, and then you get your IEP, and that goes on. And so those are all things that we learn when you have our complex kids, right? Like this is just kind of how it goes. But I wanted to go back to something that you said because you said that she got tested before and then she got tested later. And so, had we tested Drake a year before, we wouldn't have got the results because they couldn't test for it.
Right.
So it was kind of a blessing in disguise to have had to wait so long because we wouldn't have known had we done it sooner.
And that's probably what happened with my daughter too. Like the test wasn't probably, or they weren't testing for that. It didn't
Correct.
open up the panel to see all the aspects of everything. And it was 15 years later, we just found out. And also with the 16P that my daughter has, a lot of children have autism. And so we had her tested and the doctor's like, oh yeah, so,
Mhm.
and then because Kern regional, I'm Kern, but regional in all over. They're like in your county, most of them, right? They're all over.
Mhm.
Kern
Yes.
County, they accepted Piper back into the program because she has autism, and so a lot of times there's parameters that you'll fit under. They do drop you off after preschool because you're in the school system, but
Mhm.
then they'll bring you back in if your situation you learn like I learned something different about my child, and it fit in their parameters, and they let us come back to the programs
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
resources.
There's a lot to know, and to be honest, this is why I became an advocate, right? Because there are so many parents out there that are going through this, and they really don't even know anything.
Like they're
So
lost.
you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't
Yes,
know.
right.
So I'm here, like, really, like, I started this whole thing because it was hard. It is
Okay, so let's
hard.
back up. Let's back up because
Okay,
now, okay,
back up,
just so you
back
know,
up.
I've been going through this for 15 years, but I have the reason why I know a little bit more maybe than the normal, mom out there is because my son also had IEPs and he's autistic.
Mhm.
My stepdaughter has ADHD and depression, and I've been through most of her IEPs, even though she was 4 hours away. Love you, Jordan. Um, and 4 hours away in LA traffic. Okay. So,
Yes. Gotta
but
love that.
yeah, she's my stepdaughter, but we wanted to be involved like in all aspects because, she was our first and, we always want the best for your children. But I have 30 years experience in this. I'm not, an expert by large, and I definitely right currently am struggling with insurance. So, but let's talk about what is wisdom for complex kids, because I think people need to understand, like, yeah, okay, you're dealing with a lot personally, but what is it that you're doing to help moms? Like, let's say I was a first time person and I didn't know, I'm struggling with all the complexity of my child. See, I didn't say special
Mhm.
needs.
Yes,
Um,
there you go.
all the all the complexity of what Piper Sue has to go through, and like I would be lost, and I would be, you desperately go through the internet and you're trying to WebMD yourself to death, and to solve the,
Doctor Google comes up too.
yeah.
Yes.
And so tell me a little bit about what is this your services that you offer?
Sure. So it started out just as I wanted to put things out there. So I started with a podcast where we talk about, complexities of the kids. We have people over, we talk to speech therapists, we talk to to different, providers and things like that. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start helping parents with this stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I have like a workshop that you can go through. I came up with it. I thought it was very, very clever at the time. It's called Thrive, and
Oh, yeah.
it's still very clever,
I
I
love it.
think.
Is
So,
clever, but I mean, we who is it that was it is that Kaiser? Did they pick that one up, or I don't know, like it's now
oh, yeah,
used by a
that's
lot
right.
of healthcare. Yeah, like,
It is
right.
because you're thriving. So,
Right. I love it
and
though.
then I I was trying to come up with a way of like how to organize people who are going through this, right? So, the first thing that I did with my son was I needed to put a team together. People who would be on his side. So that's the T. It's a team. for in the T of the Thrive, right? So you put together a medical team around your child because you need that.
Right.
Then you go to the H, and the H are the help systems. And this means insurances, um, school districts, and state funded programs. So these are the places that you're going to get help for your child, but you do need that team before you get this. Then you go into the R, and the R are the relationships that you have around your family. You know that how hard it is to interact with people because the majority of your family in the beginning, they're going to be telling you, oh, don't worry about it. So and so didn't speak until they were 10,
You'll grow out
or
of it.
so and so. Yes, they're going to grow out of it. And so, how to actually communicate with people. So, that's the R. And then I is the integration. If you're not well, your child's not going to be well. So, you got to
Exactly.
take care of yourself. So, taking care of yourself is a big thing. Then
Physically
the
and mentally
V,
too, mentally.
oh, for sure. The V is validation. And so it's celebrating those small, small wins. And that's what's going to take you through and keep you going because they are sometimes very small, very small. But you need to look at those things. And then the E is expect the miracle to come because if you do all these things, the miracle is going to come in one way or another. So that's Thrive. So I started with this and then I started thinking, you know what? Like, I feel like parents need so much more than that. So I started taking all these advocacy classes and I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to help people with IEPs and special education. And then I got into it. And then I'm like, you know what? The majority of people have no idea how to deal with insurance companies. When you have a complex kiddo, the majority of the time you have outside providers and the good ones don't take insurance.
Mhm.
But you're paying out of pocket. How can you get at least some money back from your insurance? There's out of network benefits. Majority of people, they have no idea. So they just pay and then they don't submit claims. They don't do these things. They don't know how to if something gets denied, then they just assume that that's what it is. So there's so many ways. And so
You know what?
I've been in,
You might run into a problem in your town too, because I live in Bakersfield. You would think we would have experts and in all fields, but we don't. We suck. If you're a doctor out there and you're listening to this, you need to bring your
come to Bakersfield.
speciality to Bakersfield because we have to go everywhere else. And it is that much more difficult when you have to go to a different town, which is like 2 or 3 hours away in any direction. It's either LA, Loma Linda, Madera, and you're talking like hours and hours in either direction. And so if your child is having surgery in a town 2 hours away, thank goodness that happened to me for my daughter's open heart surgery, but we had Ronald
Uh-huh.
McDonald. And also I was like you, I didn't want to leave my daughter's side. So I literally just slept in the chair. Like I was stinky. The nurses are like, dude, you need to go have a nap and go take a shower. And I'm like, no, I'm not
Yeah.
leaving her. But so it's very, very difficult to maneuver where do you
Mm-hmm.
go to get Ronald McDonald and how do you,
Mm-hmm.
what are the services out there that can help you? And, I'm sure like trying to find the right, parent groups and support
Mm-hmm.
groups and all the things that go with that. But what I'm saying, when you have
Yes.
out of town doctors, it is not an easy feat. It is,
Mm-mm.
I'm dealing with it currently right now because my daughter actually has a tumor that she has to get removed. And
Mm-hmm.
so, it just, my poor little girl, she's saddled with so much stuff. And I just feel like it is so difficult. And sometimes having, like you said, a team that is
Mm-hmm.
supporting you in all avenues is
Mm-hmm.
well worth it. Let me just say,
Yes. Yes.
you know,
So that's why this whole thing came about. And so I said, you know what? People need help with the insurance. They need help getting into the state funded programs. So
mhm,
for me, I was like, you know what? I am going to become their care coordinator. So, because people don't know. So, I can either teach you how to do it, I can do it for you. So, I've had a lot of people just like, oh my gosh, all the weight that was on my shoulders to have to call around, to have to, you know, send emails to the school because things aren't getting done, or having to pay this out of pocket, but really not knowing why things are getting denied in the insurance. So I was like, you know what? I have a medical background. My grown up job is I work in medical sales, and so I've been in this realm of medical, the medical part of it. And I said, you know what? This would be great. So that's where it all came about. And so now I do all of it, and I just basically will take over, not take over because I can't. I'm not going to be a parent, but I will help the parent and take some of that weight off their shoulders and allow them to be parents
And you're
instead of
giving them a deep
being,
breath. If you think
yes,
about it, all of the things, and you're like, all this stuff I got, and then you come in, it's like, oh, okay, thank God.
yes,
It is a deep
yes.
breath that is much needed, and I felt like I'm your poster child of like parents. I've got it all,
Yes.
but
Yeah. I'm,
yeah,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, like, if I'm just saying, I can testify to how important your services are for people that are in my shoes, or maybe they had an ultrasound and they know their child's going to come out a little, complex.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
or they're just you're sitting in the hospital room right now because your daughter or son is in the NICU unit, and you're listening to a
Hmm.
podcast, and just so happened to be me. Well, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
And you're listening
Yeah.
to this because, yeah, um, there are people out there like Michelle that can help you navigate this complex healthcare system and find you
Yes.
the resources that you need that will prove, I mean, to be financially helpful. Not only that, but like to relieve all most of the stress that you're feeling. I mean, you already feel, parents in this situation, they already feel like we talked about before, we feel guilty, like
Hmm.
our kids are this way because we created them, they came out of
Yeah.
us.
Or
like
we,
like
whatever we did before.
right, like, yeah, did I
Yeah.
drink too much coffee or caffeine, or did I have iced tea? I mean, I try not to have any coffee when I was pregnant, and I didn't drink alcohol, and I didn't take drugs, and I took all my prenatals, and so I'm like, why, like, you know what I'm saying? We all feel that way.
Things
Every single one of
happen.
us.
Things happen. That's kind of how it is. And, you can either, I had a huge meltdown and breakdown when I was like after I had my daughter, and it was just so much. Work was super stressful, and having Drake and having all these things, and then my daughter, and marriage wasn't 100%, which happens all the time when you have a complex kiddo. The rate of divorce, I think last time I heard, was like 45% of divorces happening because of this. But anyway, through that, I I I was lucky that my company allowed me to take some time off. And during that time, I was like, okay, I was able to breathe. And then after that, I came back and I said, you know what? I have a plan, and I am going to do this, this, and this, and this. And so that's kind of how I became this advocate for him, and how I learned to be that advocate for him. And that's how I'm learning to be that advocate for other kids. But I just, if you're listening to this and you are in the situation, you're not alone. You are not alone. We all have these meltdowns. We all go through tough times. We all have issues in our marriages. We all, have, like, how do you balance? We have trouble balancing our work and our kids' lives, So just know that you're not alone, and that there is people that can help you out there. And for your listeners, if they are on an IEP and if they want to get in touch with me, I will review the IEP with them and kind of give them, like kind of a plan on where they need to go for the next 60 days or something like that. So I'm happy to do those things. But I feel like I had help. I was able to find people around me that knew what they were doing, and so that's what I wanna give to people right now, and parents, you're not alone, and don't feel like you are alone.
I I appreciate you, like, telling parents that, like, in the beginning of their journey, like, they can reach out for, like, a second set of eyes on an IEP.
Mhm,
And also, if you have an IEP and you have diagnoses for your child, make sure you get those to them in your
mhm.
IEP. Have your doctors email them to you so you can send them electronically, and you
Yes,
can also hand them to them if they need it that way, but you make sure that before your IEP meeting that you have all the documentation in hand with them,
yes.
and keep I kept a binder of all that stuff, like, my binder was, like, really big, you know?
Have 4. I have 4 up here in
Right?
my like, the gigantic ones,
Uh,
they're all up here in my office, and I wanna say something, and this is very important. If your child has an IEP, please listen to this. If it's not in writing, it did not happen. You have to write everything down. Don't just get on the call. Like you can totally call. You can have a call with the people at school, but you are going to follow up with an email saying, as discussed on our call, one, two, three, four, five. If it's not in writing, it did not happen. And so please, please, if you come out of this with anything today, is this. If you have a child with IEP, make sure that everything is in writing.
and make sure, and I always did, but make sure that you always check that you want to be present for the IEP. And it
Yes,
can be Zoom. You don't have to go and be in a room because that is actually intimidating to be in a
it
room with
is.
there's like 10 people, if not more,
Mhm.
people that are on their side and just you as the mom and dad, or just you as the mom, which a lot of times is the case. You go to the IEP and you feel, I've cried actually in my IEPs a few
Yep.
times.
Oh, so have I.
Because I just felt overwhelmed.
Mhm.
Also, I didn't know at the time that my daughter was that complex, and they're trying to push something on me, and I'm like, no, 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 she needs to be in an all inclusive class, or she needs to, I kept pushing against them because I wanted her to
Mhm.
be in a normal class with normal kids because my daughter doesn't wear
Yes.
her disability outwardly. You can't really see it at a young age. She
Mhm.
never did. She's more now as a teen. You really can tell, but when she was
Mhm.
little, you just couldn't tell that how complex she was. I learned later,
Yes.
when when I got more diagnosis, but I bucked against them a little bit, and then when they weren't listening, I was so frustrated. So it can
Yes.
get difficult. It can get overwhelming. But now that I do them via Zoom call, it's less intimidating, and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel it feels a little different than when it was when I was younger. Also, I'm a
Mhm.
little stronger too, but I'm saying if you're a first
Yes.
time mom and I would do a Zoom call. I would say I want it via Zoom. That's
Okay, if you're a first-time mom and you're just beginning, let me just tell you a couple of things that you can do, and it is okay for you to do. One, you can bring anyone you would like to an IEP meeting. So if you wanna bring a friend that's gonna be supportive of you can do that. You can bring, if you have a private speech therapist, you can bring that person to the IEP. You can pretty much bring anybody to the IEP, even if it is just somebody to hold your hand and help you.
I
But
think one time I brought, my husband's a physical therapist, but I brought one of his colleagues who was a child physical therapist to one of the IEP meetings.
Mhm,
I also brought my mom and dad one time, who I thought one time my mom, one time my dad, because I thought that he would be, intimidating him.
mhm,
My dad's a big dude.
mhm. Yeah.
And because I just wanted that support, and my dad didn't say
Yeah.
nothing. He just, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. But it wasn't but I felt like they couldn't run me over because I had somebody there that would be like, no, 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 no. So, I
Mhm,
mean, like you said, you can bring in your doctors, your specialties. You can have you and your
mhm,
husband there, bring in family
mhm.
members, even if they're just holding your hand, because you're
Yes.
hearing things that are difficult to hear.
Mhm,
They're talking about your kid that is doing things in school that may not be doing at home. They see different behaviors than you're seeing because your child feels loved and comfortable in their home
Mhm.
environment and acts differently there. Like my daughter, she
Yep.
still has meltdowns and tantrums, and she's 15, and so she's doing. She doesn't do those at home, and so
Mhm.
they'll express things at school that are different, and so you're hearing them for the first time, and it's almost like you don't want to believe it,
Yeah.
and so yeah.
Well, the I just remember going out of these and just crying because basically, they start out the IEP going and saying, they all say this. They all say this. Oh, so and so is so sweet. We love to have him. This is great. And then you go to all the shit.
Right.
Everything that your child is not able
And it
to
sounds like
do.
they really don't like
The
him after he says
things
things. When they say things, it's
Yes,
like, "Do you really like my kid after he did all that?" I mean, my daughter had
exactly.
told the teacher to F off one time. I was like, "What the hell?" I know she learned that from me because I have a potty mouth, but my sweet little girl never used a cuss word around me ever because she knows that, she'd be in some deep shit. And she told the teacher one time to F off, and I could not believe it. I about lost my shit. And I was like, "You like my daughter after she told you?" Like, well, go fuck yourself. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful, right? Like, you see they see a different part, a different way. They see your child in a different with different eyes. And then, they come to the IEP and they're telling you everything. Like, for me, it was to this day, my son is in 6th grade. He just started. He can't read and he can't write, you know? So, like,
How do you work
how does
around
that
that?
make
Like,
you feel?
how do you work around that in an IEP? I mean, like my daughter can't write either, but she physically can't write. And so now, and also she leaves the beginning of a word and the end of a word off. And so nobody can understand her. And
Yeah.
so she has to have like an electronic device. She types it out and then
Mhm.
she goes and it'll say what she wants. And so,
Yeah.
but she has to type and
Mhm.
because she can't write a paragraph, and you're
Yeah.
in high school, you're supposed to be able to write papers and stuff, and she won't
Yeah.
ever be able to do that. But how do
Yeah.
you when they can't read? I mean, is that like that's like a struggle, right? That's
It
hard.
is. So, there's a couple of things. So there's a place called the Diagnostic Center here in California. And for the people that are from California, this is a wonderful place. They have a couple of them throughout the state. You can't self refer.
I'm gonna write it
You
down.
it has to come from the school district. And what they do is they send you to this place and they accept you or not. They are very busy. But the way that they do, and this is what they did to Drake, is we went up there. We went to LA a week. For a week from 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. He has about 8 different people just with him. So they test him. They see like how he does. They do counseling with him with a psychologist. They have the educational psychologist, they have an OT, they have a PT, they have a speech, and they go through this whole entire um, assessment. And then they come up with a report and they say, after everything and everything that we've tried with him, this is how he's going to learn. And can I tell you what's happened in the past ever since we got this? Nobody has used they have implemented what they've been saying all along for 3 years that he needed to learn how to read. Every teacher, every school, they have their way of like, this is how it is. This is how
Right.
it goes.
Like they're in a
And
concrete box. They can't see
yes,
outside of how they
but
do things.
yeah, and so I am right now. We just had them come down again, and the great thing about this is that they follow the child all the way through high school. So anytime the school district or the parent like say, "Hey, is there any way you can come down and do this?" It actually has to go through the school district, but they do this. They come. So they were just with him this week on Monday, Tuesday. We had a meeting yesterday. No, actually Wednesday, and they're like, "Okay, this is what we saw. You guys are not doing what we've been telling you all along that you need to do for him to learn to read and write." And so, and I will tell you one thing is that the one thing that people need to know is how to read. And so like that is a basic. Like, you can dictate anything on your phone, right? But when you're looking, you have to be able to read things. And so, my mentor, that for advocacy, that's one thing that she always says. Like, they have to know how to
If the
read.
one thing that they do for your son is to teach him to read, then damn it, they
Yes,
need to be that needs to be their number one
exactly.
goal.
Priority.
Priority.
Yes,
Yes, priority.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
So
totally
anyway,
you're so strong as a mom, but it's so, refreshing. And how wonderful that you're creating this support for moms and for families.
yeah.
You're, you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's so hard, right? It's so hard. And I remember going through this. And, I think that one of the hardest things too is, of course, you're taking care of your child and you are, advocating for them. And what happens is you as a person, you as a woman, as a mother, or you as a parent, as a dad, you forget about yourself. You forget about, it's all about them. And I felt like through the years, I've had to find families and friends that understand what it is that I'm going through. Because if you don't know what a family is going through, it's really easy to just put them away. Right. So, like friends that I had before I had Drake, they don't want to be around because, it's madness. It was madness. It's
And
not as bad now.
sometimes people feel like if they can't like be supportive or they don't have anything, like some people are about solutions or I want to solve the problem, but if I can't help you, then I just don't want to be a part of it. Or they feel helpless or whatever. But sometimes it's just being there and listening.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question? So
Yes.
you're looking at this diagnostic center helped you reevaluate like their priorities for
Mhm.
him in his learning process. Is that something that you help parents set realistic expectations for themselves, for
Of
their kids?
course. Of course.
Help them reevaluate the priorities. Like sometimes social and emotional might be more important than,
Yes.
than their test scores.
Yes.
Like my
So
daughter, just one second. My daughter, she gets overwhelmed with math. So when she was learning her times tables and they would put like 20 on a page or 40 on a page, I told them to fold the page over and I said,
oh, good.
allow her to do as many as she can and then grade her on the amount that she completed and whatever she
Mhm.
got wrong. So if she did 10 and she got 7 out of 10, then that's how you grade her, 7 out of 10, not 7
Mhm.
out of the 40.
40. Yeah.
Right. And so that's what they're doing. That's what they do for her. Uh,
Yeah.
so because some kids get overwhelmed and they have emotional problems, more emotionally issues, more so
Mhm.
than in the learning process. And so sometimes you just got to dive in and find out what's going on with your kid and how best to test them, how best to,
Yeah.
my daughter has to be put in a more quieter place to be tested. She can't have a lot of
Mhm.
outside things happening around her. Same with my
Yeah.
son was the same way. And
Yeah.
all the schools will do this stuff for you, but you have
Yeah.
to get it in writing, like you said.
You gotta put it in writing and you have to make sure that they're making and they're doing the correct assessments. So all of those things will come into play. And then, you know, what the when you're doing an IEP, when you're reviewing an IEP, you have to look at present levels. Where are they currently? And you have to develop goals that are attainable for your child. For you to just say, oh, like he doesn't read at all. Okay. And then you say by the end of the year, he's going to read like 500 words. You're like, he's in sixth grade. He has not learned anything, like he can't, like, of course he can, he knows what to stop and just basic words. He definitely can read iPhone, iPad,
Right.
anything Apple. He can read those things. But, everything else. So, you have to look at the present levels and then you have to build on that. And that is what I try to do when I'm attending an IEP with the parents. Because if you have these goals that are so big and so above what they are currently able to do, then you're just going to lose the kid. You know what I mean? You got to get it. Is it my mentor says, when you get it right, for the kid, you get it right for
Mhm.
everyone. So,
And if you find something in the IEP that's not working, because I had this one lady shadowing my son, and she wasn't very
hmm
nice to him, and my son didn't like her. And if that's the case, I had to fight to try to get her another
hmm
person, and the school wouldn't do it. And,
hmm
I eventually ended up pulling my son from the school because this teacher, this aide wasn't a teacher, she was just like an aide, and,
hmm
she was saying mean things to him, and he would come home and tell
it's
me things
awful.
that he should not have learned to know. And
Yeah.
so I actually pulled my son out of school during, I think his 3rd grade year. Between 3rd and
hmm
5th grade, I homeschooled him. But he needs, which I think he did a lot better homeschooling than he ever did in school. But
hmm
he was his math, because my son is a wizard at math, so he's really good. And when I
That's
couldn't
great.
really teach him at math very well, I'm like, I'm putting you back in school, Parker. And then I went and
hmm
got my master's degree because I was like, man, if my son knows math better than I do, that's just not right. I'm like, I mean, I just had to not get any. Anyways, I think that your services are great. And you know what? Like I said, you can do it via Zoom. You can have the whole IEP via Zoom call and bring in
Yes.
Michelle for support. And
hmm
she can help you. And sometimes, and I mean, the schools are getting better. I think they are getting somewhat better when it comes to this IEP thing. So but a lot of times they think of things like she said, like, we're going to do it this way. And these are our
hmm
services. And you're like, well, my daughter needs OT. My daughter needs speech. My daughter needs all these other things. And I was able to get them for my kid. And so you
Yes.
can get a lot more for your child. And so if you're not, you don't know how to navigate these waters, definitely look up. Let's tell them how to find you.
Yes.
Um,
So, it's Michelle Choairy. So it's Michelle, and my last name is Choairy. Or you can also go to wisdom number 4 complexkids.com, and you can find me there also. I'm actually in the process of getting this amazing website. It's called the IEP Crusher. So that's going to
love
be
the
the
name.
best one. I know. So we're about to build that because I think that that's going to be a lot easier for people to find us. And by the time you are listening to this, it will be there. So go to iepcrusher.com and you're going to find me there. And then, and like I said, for your listeners, I'm happy to, do an IEP review, kind of give them, what should you do in the next 60 days? And it will be for free. I'm not going to, that I don't charge for, but if they continue to want to work with me, then we'll go from there. But, I feel like it's so important for people. And really, there is a lack of education and about, well, education in the special education world, and also education for parents on what it is, what are the rights, what is the law, and all of that. Um, I want to show you this. I do some lives and every week, a couple times a week. And this is where I teach it from.
What the
This
heck?
is the code. This is the federal code
That's
for
nuts.
education. And these are all the tabs on the things that I want to teach. And so I every week you'll get I do a live on Facebook, and it's basically reading what the law says. And that is what we need to stick by. So
Right. And a
anyway.
lot of times parents don't know that, there's like loopholes, in everything in
Mm-hmm.
life. And there are things that aren't being addressed like you said, there's like these things out there that maybe you don't know or the school didn't know, or
Mm-hmm.
programs that maybe that you weren't aware of,
Yeah.
support groups that fit your niche of complexity for your child.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're also on a podcast, right? Or more than one.
Yes. So, yeah, I have my own. It's just called Complex Kids Simple Solutions. And then I am a co-host, and this is my funny one. This is like my mom one, right? I do the Complex Kids, and then this is my mom one. There's four of us, and we are hilarious. And it's me. I'm a Brazilian who lives in California. We have a white New Jersey suburban mom. We have my favorite Taisha from Alabama and an African American, and she is hilarious. I tell her all the time that I need a Wikipedia for her on half of the things that she says. And then we have the one that actually started it all, and her name is Jackie. So it's called BT Dubs, the mom panel.
Mom
And
panel. I love that.
yes. So if you don't have a complex kid, just listen to me on the mom panel.
Well, I live through laughter, and I think that laughter is the best medicine. And I try to be as funny as possible, even though I'm probably only funny to myself. But I think laughter, and you know what, sometimes you need that release,
Yes.
and the reason to exhale, and like it's just so much. And a lot of times women, they bear the brunt of it. The
Yes.
husbands, they go to work and they don't really want to hear it, and
Mhm.
they don't understand it. And when they're not going to all these IEP meetings, they don't know the level of like work that goes into your complex kid. Really, they only see what they see
Mhm.
at home, and there's way more to it. And the education part of your special child is super important to their
It
development and
is.
how they become a great human. My daughter is 15 now in high school, and we've been doing this for since she was a baby, since she was 3, and there's just more to it even in high school than you know. She's not
Yes.
going to graduate with a diploma; she graduates with a certificate of completion, and then they'll allow her to continue after 4 years. So there's all these programs, and they'll help
Yes.
you, like if you have to. There's just some things that are going on that, well, your child is whatever age now, but when they get into high school, it's going to be different than when they're in middle
Mhm.
school or when they're
For
in
sure.
elementary school. So
Yes.
every kid, or excuse me, every milestone, or every, you go from preschool to,
Oh,
elementary to middle
yes.
school to there's all these different stages, and they're all
Definitely.
different, and they expect more from your child. You think that your kid's just going to get through in high school. Oh, no, they won't allow it because, they won't allow it.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much to it. So,
For sure.
I appreciate you coming out. I'm gonna
Oh,
put your information on my website so you guys can go to
awesome.
www.jesssaying.net and scroll down, and you'll find her. And uh it's by episode and episode title. And also, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart right now. Okay, so everybody go out there. I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Facebook, I have all those things. Go to Jess Sane or Jess Danel. Look me up, Google me, go find, like, and subscribe, and follow, because I'd like to build this community of moms out there. And Michelle Choairy, thank you so much for taking the time and giving us your knowledge and putting yourself out there to help moms like me and other moms that are in need of your services. I really do appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Jess, for having me. This has been great.
Awesome. All right, everybody, take care.
about the days we used to know. VCR tapes and dial-up tones, raising kids living with achy bones. Leather jackets and big hair days, now it's carpool lines and PTA. Neon dreams turn into schoolyard fights, but our hearts glow in retro nights. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We are Gen X, living both worlds. From cassette tapes to a digital world. Parenting now with a nod to the past. The retro love we know will last. We dance to the beats of the boombox sound. Now bedtime stories echo all around. But deep inside we're the mixtape kings, still fighting life with arcade dreams. Feeding families with a pizza slice, telling tales with a side of advice, laughing at the way it